Welcome back to the Hockey Show, and today we are talking about ESPN's list of the top 25 hockey players of the 21st century. And I was looking around for things. So obviously we're in the middle of it might be the middle of the hottest time of the year for us over here in the Western Hemisphere, but it is the coldest time for our favorite sport and the best sport in the world. So I'm just kind of looking around, seeing what other people are talking about, blah, 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 and just kind of reviewing things. And my contracts video did pretty good, so I'm going to do this one. And so I looked at this list and I was like, oh, that could be interesting to look at. And I clicked on it and holy God, okay, this list is not insanely bad. But I read the top part of their article talking about it, and they apparently recently did their own top 100 athletes of the 21st century, and apparently they said only 3 hockey players made the list. 3. The sport that most people would concede is the toughest sport, or at least along with boxing or whatever, the toughest sport with some amazing talents like some of the one on the board, and only 3 of them made the list. The top one being the top guy up here at 22. Unreal to me. Absolutely unreal. So I knew this list was going to be bad to go into, and then it just got fucking worse. So let's just go through all of it. So first up, Sidney Crosby. Is he number 1 of the 21st century? I think so. Just going off of everything. Going off of what's going on right now with the Olympics, his gold medal goal being one of the most recognizable and most replayed and talked about and mythical level of goal, that gold medal, world championships. He's got that down on all sorts of levels, from juniors to now coming up for the World Cup of Hockey, or whatever, the global showdown, whatever the hell they're calling it. That to the Stanley Cups, the 3 of them winning the Conn Smythe Trophy, Hart winner, all these things going into it, and not just being a pure points guy, being that true two-way centerman. Well, nowadays, maybe not when he began, but just the feats that he's done. He has been the generational talent of the 21st century so far. We've got, 76 years left of this century to go through still, and maybe someone on this board could surpass him. But at this point, he has been the best hockey athlete of the 21st century, bar none. Second place, Alexander Ovechkin. I think this is fine too. For only having 1 cup, but it comes with the goal scoring aspect, right? People tune in for 2 things for hockey, is the fights and, well, I don't, but fights and goals, right? And Alex Ovechkin, and it might be, if you look at it more recently, it might not be so much, but in the 2000s and then the teens, Alexander Ovechkin was an absolute menace. Absolute beast on the ice, scoring goals. He can fly, he can move the puck, he still can dangle a little bit, but he used to just make these crazy moves. He can hit, he's a wrecking ball, and the goal score, I hope he breaks the record. And even if he doesn't, the fact that a record that felt like it could be unbreakable, 50 years ago, not 50 years ago, but 20 years ago when he started, that is unreal to me. So Ovechkin to number 2 makes sense to me, just being the one of the hockey greats of all time. In 30 years, when I'm talking about this again, which probably won't be happening by then, but in 30 years when the O Hockey Show is still going on, Alexander Ovechkin, he will be held up to that hockey Mount Rushmore wall, right? He will be up there. Then third is where things really start to fall off with Connor McDavid. Listen, to me, I would say that I believe that McDavid in his prime is better than Gretzky. He's better than Lemieux. He's a more talented player. He's the most talented player on earth. He should be the most valuable player on earth, but I don't think there should be much of a debate. As much as MVP year to year, sure, Nathan McKinnon I believe was this year, and maybe certain circumstances, but Connor McDavid is unreal. But he has really done nothing. And to me, you cannot go off of potential. You have to go on the actual accolades and feats of these players. In 8 years, when he's rounding up his career, and he has 3 or 4 Stanley Cups, or he won them 4 years in a row after joining the New York Rangers or something like that. I don't know. Then I will believe you, McDavid can be, right? And I know he's won all the Hearts and all the Ted Lindsays or whatever the hell. Sure, I get all that, but he hasn't had like that world famous success. He hasn't had like the actual trophies that win things. His Conn Smythe win is ridiculous, and he has no cup. He hasn't brought his team to like the finals or something. Well, he did, but he hasn't done like the actual like feats. He can get all the points in the world, but if you can't get the job done of winning, I mean, he hasn't won a President's Trophy for his team. Like, when it comes to actual team success, which is what it all comes down to, he hasn't gotten to that point. He's like Jumbo Joe. He's like Patrick Marleau at this point, right? Has done so many things, gotten tons of points, but really, he has not gotten, like, what everyone claims is the greatest point of the sport, right? So, to me, McDavid needs to be bumped down. Number 4, Patrick Kane, is where things are interesting to me. He is the number 1 player with points in the 2010s. And like, to me, probably the greatest American of all time. I think I would definitely put him there. And he revolutionized the sport, right? The way that people my age, I guess now people coming up now go more like towards like the Trevor Zegras, like super skill, like super lacrosse type moves, like type of playing hockey, like the new type of skill. But when I was growing up, like, Patrick Kane was the ideal. That's what inspired guys like Jack Hughes and Wyatt Johnstons and the Connor Bedards was the way that Patrick Kane played. That's what it has inspired the Trevor Zegrases to make these crazy moves, right? Is because it's the Patrick Kane that revolutionized stick handling, how to be a new offense. He made the new talent wave, right? He created it. And to me, number 4, I think he could get number 3. Just being, like, owner of the 2010s with all the Stanley Cups he won with the Chicago Blackhawks, the Conn Smythe. He ran the NHL. Maybe not him by himself, but he ran it and was the face of it, right? So to me, Kane should be number 3. Number 5, Nicholas Lidstrom is where they put him. And to me, I think this is about right. The Detroit Red Wings were so strong back in the beginning times, at the beginning of the 2000s, the Red Wings, he was the captain. He's the ideal, like what a defender, like, should be, a guy that can lead the team, be great defensively, also get tons of points. Like, that is what, like, the key of a Lidstrom or a Hedman come onto the board. So Lidstrom, to me, tops, like, McDavid. Like, career-wise, like, Lidstrom, what he did with all the Norris trophies, all the Stanley Cups, being the captain, true captain. Not just, like, a guy that wears the C, like, a true captain of the team. Like, to me, Nicholas Lidstrom should be number 4. And that should be, like, the top 4 of, like, the 21st century so far. But even if you wanted to, I would go down to number 7 with Martin Brodeur. Because with number 6, they go to Nathan MacKinnon, which at least, sure, now he has a heart, and the Ted Lindsay, and no, he didn't win the Ted Lindsay, right? No, he did. Did he? It doesn't matter. Stanley Cup champion, right? He's unreal. But it's the same thing where it's like you're going off of actual career, right? Like what these guys have done, their resumes. And submitting Nathan MacKinnon's resume to me right now, he does not beat the next at least 3 people on the board. With Martin Brodeur, even though if you want to debate over if he is the best goaltender of all time or not, I don't know if I would say he's the best, but like being... like, he's leader of wins and games. Like, he's done so much for the New Jersey Devils. And sure, it's thanks to his team as well. But you can't deny what his literal resume is. And to me, like, Brodeur, you need to have a goaltender, right? Who is the best goaltender of the 21st century? Just going off of wins and stuff, Brodeur, Lundqvist easily go above Nathan MacKinnon and McDavid at this point. But that's where Lundqvist comes into play. Because he didn't get those trophies, right? And his career is like Thornton down here and McDavid at this point, where it's like they don't have those actual trophies. They might have led their team and done all of the right things and be the perfect player and the best of any game that he played in, but he didn't get the job completely done, and he did so good for himself. So to me, like, Lundqvist, Brodeur, bump them up and bring MacKinnon and McDavid down. Malkin, right? Gino, number 9. Evgeny Malkin, 9th best player of the 21st century. I think I can get behind that. I would maybe bump him above... I mean, of course, like McDavid and McKinnon, I'm still bumping down the list. But, because then we get to the point where I actually could see it. Because, like, Malkin, 3 Stanley Cups. Without him, do the Penguins win those Stanley Cups? I don't think so. He won the Conn Smythe. He's won the Rocket Richard. And to me, it's like he's done everything. Like, he has those specific trophies that these guys just don't have. And to me, Malkin, I think, goes up a little bit. I think he's really tough. I would probably go through and remake this list on my own another time, but I'm just going after ESPN at this point, the stupidest goddamn network in the world. Bergeron and Chara, both at 10 and 11. This is where I'm like, what? Zdeno Chara, unreal defenseman, 6'9", tallest guy in the world, can create points, did great defensively. But is he better than some of the other defensemen and the guys below him on this list? Both of them winning one Stanley Cup, right? So one Stanley Cup, this is where things like Nathan MacKinnon can start coming into play. Because, like, MacKinnon being, like, the superstar, but Bergeron being, like, the true Selke guy, which I believe the trophy should be renamed after him. To me, Bergeron maybe can go above, like, a MacKinnon, because then it's like MacKinnon with one trophy, like one cup. Like, I know one cup's incredible, but it's just like that one cup alone, is that enough to like really like put you over the edge? Like, these guys all have multiple, right? So to me, other than Lundqvist, but to me, Bergeron with one cup and all the Selkies is what puts him above a little bit, and that's what gets him above like a MacKinnon. But then with McDavid, all of his hearts and all the hearts he's going to win too, is where it might even out, but that one's kind of tough to me. And because then you go down to Stamkos, one of the third, I think it's third, most goals currently active, right? He's won the Rocket Richard twice. He has been the captain of the Tampa Bay Lightning through like one of the most successful periods of time. Not just because of the 3 back-to-back Stanley Cup finals, back-to-back Stanley Cups to boot to that, but before that, remember, the Tampa Bay Lightning were in the conference finals and the finals so many years. The one year where Patrick Kane won it is when they went to the finals, remember? And he was the captain of that. I think he was the captain of that team. Pretty sure. Regardless, Stamkos was there, and then he was there when they went to the conference finals against the Capitals, and all these different series where he's been a part of this and leading this team in the charge, where it's like all these things put together. I would much, much rather put like a Steven Stamkos above, say like a McDavid at this point, because Stamkos just like unreal career, and I feel like a really neglected one to me. Draisaitl being above Joe Thornton is, once again, it's like this is a joke, and I hate people, and I know I'm just kind of rambling going off this list, but this is kind of just, it's the off season, it's time to just kind of talk hockey, right? There's nothing truly to discuss here. I wish I will one day have another person on the show, and I will actually have a conversation about this, but for right now, I'm just going to ramble, and you can just listen to me if you want. But Joe Thornton, right? Joe Thornton's career, the one where it's like the greatest career without a Stanley Cup. Joe Thornton, right? To go all this time, well, Lundqvist too, but it's like, how do you not put Joe Thornton with 1,109 assists? Would put him already like what, 6th in points all time or something like that, plus his 430 goals. It's like you put all of these stats together, and it's like, how is he below Leon Draisaitl? Maybe if they existed in the same time, if Joe Thornton, his career started now, right? Would I pick Leon Draisaitl over Joe Thornton at this very current point? I don't know. That's actually really hard. I don't know, that's a really tough matchup. But regardless, like with careers, 21st century, what Joe Thornton did for his long career and the accolades that he put together and the amazing seasons he's had, and like how kind of he's like the last of like that era that kind of keep playing, it's really tough to see him below Leon Draisaitl, right? Because with a Nathan MacKinnon, I would say maybe, and a McDavid, but Leon of all people, right? To me, Joe Thornton belongs somewhere in the top 15, and I don't know where. And I'm going to go through this again and do my own top 25 list. But then, because Joe Thornton, he somehow passes Austin Matthews. And this is where I start to get really confused. Because they put Austin Matthews, right? The NHL's, like, golden boy, other than McDavid, right? Matthews being like the next great goal scorer behind Alexander Ovechkin. He's been around a while. He's won multiple Rocket Richards. He's won the Hart and Ted Lindsay. I think he won the Ted Lindsay. Why do I keep getting confused by that? But regardless, he's won the Hart. He's done almost, like, minus this one last playoff run, they have about equal, like, shared playoff success somewhat. So overall, it's like between Matthews, McDavid, and Nathan MacKinnon, it's like, I don't know, like, would I put Austin Matthews above McKinnon, McDavid, and Draisaitl at this point? I think so. I mean, with the goal scoring that he brings, just, like, is unreal, and if he had a different team that was, like, more competitive in the playoffs, like, if you replace, like, Austin Matthews with Mikko Rantanen and, like, flip them, like, you don't think the Avalanche are winning the Stanley Cup every single year? I do. So it's, like, Austin Matthews with Draisaitl, McDavid, and Brodeur, I'm not Brodeur, what the hell am I talking about, with McKinnon? I don't know how to feel about that, right? So Matthews is, like, I would say he's about maybe right. He's below most of the people he should be below. But I don't know. Like, that one's a weird one that they put Matthews there. And then 16, Erik Karlsson. I mean, Senators Erik Karlsson, even last year with his 100-point season, like, unreal. 6th defenseman to do it ever. Last time it happened was in World War II era. That is crazy. And to me, like, Erik Karlsson, he's unreal. Maybe not today. Maybe he's definitely left a sour taste in people like my mouths. And just, like, he's really left a sour taste for recency bias. But Karlsson's actual career overall is stunning. And, yeah, to me, it's like 16th might be about right. But I don't know if I would put him above, like, where's Hedman? Hedman and Duncan Keith down here? Like, all the way down here? I don't know about that, because he doesn't have, like, the Stanley Cups that they do. He didn't, like, lead them to that. He could have, but he didn't. And I would definitely put a Duncan Keith or a Victor Hedman. I mean, 3 Norris trophies is crazy, but both of them have 2, pretty sure I know he has 2. Pretty sure Victor Hedman has 2 as well. So to me, Karlsson, like, is he definitely on this list? Yes. Is he number 16 above these guys? I would say no. Nikita Kucherov's, once again, it's like, how are they weighing this, right? Kucherov being, like, the unreal, like, super offensive player versus Erik Karlsson, the super offensive player. One has 3 back-to-back-to-back Stanley Cup finals, winning Conn Smites, winning Hart trophies, winning, like, best, like, all these awards, and Karlsson with just the Norris. To me, Kucherov definitely is above Karlsson, I think, at this point. I think so. Kucherov's younger than him, so he has more time left. Like, in points-wise, I think Karlsson well, maybe he doesn't. I don't actually know that, but I don't know about that one. But then Marc-Andre Fleury and Vasilevsky, this is where it's like, what? Like, this is hard to think about, because it's like, where do you put, like, Fleury's career versus, like, Austin Matthews? Because Fleury has the Stanley Cups and a lot of historical significance with, like, the Vegas Golden Knights. But there was, like, the playoff runs with the Penguins was, like, sometimes it was Matt Murray's year, and then the other year, like, it's like, he's never really dragged the team to a certain point, but I'm like having a tough time thinking of Fleury versus Vasilevsky, because Vasilevsky really backstopped his team to 2 Stanley Cups and was a huge part of that time, but I don't know, it's hard to wrap my head around that one. And then, because there's just so many things going on this board, right? Because especially, and then, like, comparing them, because it's like with Austin Matthews at this point in their careers, it's like Fleury's and Vasilevsky have won and dragged their teams to a point. But it's hard to rank goalies because sometimes it is big thanks to, like, the defense, and, like, Vasilevsky, especially with the time that he was very, very successful. He had an amazing defensive core in front of him, so to me, that's kind of hard. Then you get to Jerome and Ginla, and then it's like, I don't even know where I put Iggy compared to most of these guys. Like, he's below Stamkos, and he also, like, I don't know, like, that's a tough one, but it feels about right. But is Jerome and Ginla above Anze Kopitar? The guy that, like, led the team to winning those Stanley Cups with Jonathan Quick at number 25. Like, Jonathan Quick, the guy who truly, like, dragged a team to the Stanley Cup, right? And Anze Kopitar, like, being the Kings franchise guy. and like still going, and like the Selkies that he's won, just being like that overall amazing player who can create points and play defense and carry a team, like in the Stanley Cups that he's won, like compared to like Jerome Iginla and Carlson, I would probably put Kopitar above them. But then you get to the guy right below him, and Pavel Datsyuk, and then it's like, I mean, between Datsyuk and Kopitar, like both super great defensive forwards, but I don't, like, it's tough. So I know I'm kind of like getting to a point where it's like I don't know, because it's like Duncan Keith and Hedman, like I definitely put them up, but then how far do you put them up? Because we've brought like McKinnon, McDavid down, and then Jonathan Quick. I don't know what to think about all this. Like, is Jonathan Quick's career better than like Fleury and Vasilevsky? I mean, Quick beat Lundqvist in the finals, right? So it's like, I don't know what to think about all that, because there's so many moving parts here. But then you don't even consider who is not on freaking ESPN's list, because then you start to look off the list and you get to the Sedins, you get Drew Doughty compared to like Carlson, right? You get to Brent Burns even, who like has led the defenseman in the 2000s in points, right? So if you're gonna count like Carlson as like number 16, Brent Burns has been way more like productive than that. And so it's like you start comparing those type of things. It's like, I don't know what to think about this anymore. And then it's such a tough feat to try to wrap your head around, because there's a lot of moving parts. And then even guys like Nicholas Backstrom, it's like if Malkin's on here and Ovechkin's number 2 and Crosby's number 1, does Backstrom get on this board? I don't know. And John Carlson too, right? So there's a lot of hard pieces, and this is a very, very subjective list, right? Because honestly, if it was based off of pure resume, it would be very clear who like gets where, right? I think Kane goes to 3. It should be Crosby, Ovechkin, Kane, and then probably Lidstrom. You might put Lidstrom above Patrick Kane, but to me, I just think like the influence Kane had on the game as a self, his career might be more impactful and more meaningful. So to me, maybe it goes like Kane, Lidstrom, and then you have like the goaltender. So probably it's Brodeur or Lundqvist. I guess kind of debate on who you think is better. Brodeur, with all like the actual records and awards he's won, is probably like the easier one to slide in there. So you go like Brodeur, and then you could put in like a Malkin, then Lundqvist, and then you put like a Bergeron, and then that's where you can start sliding in like the McDavids and stuff. But then you still have Stamkos and Thornton to put on the list. So it's very hard to compare all this. And then it's like with Jonathan Quick, like I think they kind of have a point here. Jonathan Quick is either like is in the 20s or is in the top 10. Like, I don't know what to do with him, because he's won the trophies and he's carried this team a lot and he's been unreal, and playing with like the Team USA and stuff too, right? Like, he's done a whole lot, but it's hard because compared to everyone else, it's like he has the same amount of trophies as Victor Hedman, and he has it with Kopitar, and he beats like he doesn't beat Fleury, but I would say between Jonathan Quick and Fleury, who's a better career, like that is such a tough, like who's a better player is one thing, but who's had a better career is even tougher question. So to me, it's like, I don't know. And to me, the end of the day here to talk about this ridiculous list is that this is completely impossible to rank. The top 25 here is so hard because it really goes off of like what a single person actually perceives is more valuable. Because obviously to this list, it's probably more about talent than it actually is a resume. Because Crosby, Ovechkin, McDavid, right? They probably wanted to put McDavid at number 2, but Ovechkin being the goal guy had to go at 2. So it's Crosby, Ovechkin, McDavid, and then Kane. But like if they're going off of skill, right? Is McKinnon above like Brodeur and Malkin and Bergeron and Stamkos and Draisaitl? Like that's a hard question to kind of answer. And then if it is about skill, and so it's about like Ovechkin is a number 2, then why does Austin Matthews, who's definitely better at this point in his career, have an all-around game than an Ovechkin? Technically speaking, you would slide Matthews over Ovechkin. So it must not be that. It must be the actual like career things. But then if you go after the career things, then you knock down McDavid. So this whole list is like a weird subjectivity, and their article does not say like anything about the. I'll put it down below in the description. But it says nothing about the actual like their reasoning, right? They just kind of talk about this, like Fleury. They'll be like having so many wins and blah 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 blah. Fleury. And then they go on the next guy. They don't say like Fleury is above Vasilevsky because of this reason. They don't back up any of their claims. They just slot them in here. And it's just a ridiculous list to show how much ESPN does not care at all about the NHL or hockey, because this list was completely made up by some guy that's hired by ESPN, probably just because they needed to hire someone to write articles for hockey because now they own the rights to it. So they probably just hired some guy who applied, and he probably knows football better, and so he just barely knows anything. His family likes hockey, so he goes into it, and his best friend tells him some stuff, and he's just a diehard Canadian fan. I don't even know. And it's just a weird list that I just don't think anyone would really agree with. I mean, sure, like, there's some points where it's like you could agree with it, but then just it all goes over the place, because it's like, if it's like Kucherov versus McDavid, it's like Kucherov has had the better career, but McDavid's the better player. But if that's the case, then it's like, how does it equal out the third to 17? I don't care. I don't understand what's going on here, ESPN. So, you guys suck. ESPN is a waste of time, and I do not understand this stupid list. This is a really, really dumb list. And to me, it's just inspiring me to make my own list. So, I'm going to eventually, sometime soon, make my own top 25, see what I think, but it's really hard. I think I would probably do it with someone. So, I'll probably find someone to do this with, and that'll be coming in the future. But for now, that's all I gotta say about this really stupid list, and that is all I've gotta say. So if you've somehow made it through this almost half an hour video, thank you for watching this. I don't know how you did and listened to me talk for 30 minutes, but you're a champ, and you might as well subscribe because you got to this point, so why not finish the journey and click that subscribe button, because I'm begging you, please, and it'll make me smile like that. So anyways, that's all I've got to say. So, too sweet. I hope you have a fantastic day, and ta-ta for now.